Okay, so that's out of the way. Your contacts are all out of the way. Screws are out. What we're going to do is clean this contact assembly. First and foremost, what you want to do is to protect the organ. Okay, I use, first off, I'm going to put down a heavy towel. Okay, I go down to the Salvation Army store, and for like $1 you can buy all kinds of bath towels and what have you. And then over that I'm going to put another piece of plastic to keep the solvents from soaking through. Okay, I got some plastic down here. Again, I'm not going to make any specific recommendations, but I will say this: make sure that whatever you use is specifically says that it's safe for plastics, number one. Number two, try it on a piece of the top of here, for example, and spray a little piece on top and see if you get any degradation whatsoever. It's either going to just clean it off nice, like you see this does. It doesn't etch it, it still stays nice and shiny. It's a good indication that this is safe to use for plastic. Okay? Okay, so what I'm going to do is first I spray it lightly up toward the top here, and I'm going to loosen the crud with a little brush here. This stuff does not want to come loose by itself very easily. So I'm going to go down, and while it's still wet, just kind of spray it to get all of the crud loose from the top. And I'm going to just keep working my way down. I found that a good thing to use is a good old pink pearl eraser. I go ahead and cut that part flat with an X-Acto knife, and I just kind of rub about in the center here. Doesn't take much, just a couple of good swipes with the old pink pearl is going to take any oxidation right off of there. This may or may not be necessary in your case. It's impossible for me to predict what's going to require in any case, in every case. After that's done, however, you want to make sure that you go down and flush the thing very well with your spray. And what that does is get rid of any slight pieces of residue that might have remained in here from your eraser. Okay, as I go down this thing, I might want to remind you, don't ever, 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 ever use anything more abrasive than an eraser for this. Never use steel wool, never use sandpaper. You'll end up destroying your drawbar assembly. This eraser is really the most abrasive thing that you should ever have to use. And again, in some cases, this may not even be necessary. Okay, so here we have it. Nice and clean. You can see the top is nice and shiny, indicating that the solvent that we used to clean it with did not etch the plastic, so it's not going to hurt it in the long run. Very important. Face of it, you want to go ahead and make sure the face is nice and shiny clean, because part of that's visible. You can see that the contacts are all nice and shiny bright. There's no evidence of any kind of crap in there that would cause problems. Now, lubricating these things, again, I have used several things. Number one that I've used that with very good results is Deoxit makes a fader lube spray. It's a green compound instead of the red stuff that you're probably accustomed to, and I've actually sprayed the drawbars with them and put it back together again, and years later it still operates smooth and quiet. Deoxit also makes a fader lube, which is just a pure silicone grease that you can put in here. I've also heard people use lithium grease to put in there, and Vaseline and various things. Now, I'm not going to say one thing works where the others don't. All I can say is that the deoxit products worked well for me. Anything else I'm not going to recommend at this point, although I'm sure there's a lot of other things out there that work. I'm going to go ahead and use the deoxit again for this particular application because I believe that it will work the best. What I'm going to do is give it a couple of shots at each row of contacts. And what this is going to do is not only protects the contacts from further oxidation, but it will also act as a lubricant. The thing that I will do while I have the opportunity is to put a coat of polish on this thing. You can see that this part is pretty nasty. Up underneath where the drawbars were is kind of nasty. And I just use an automotive cleaner wax and then follow it up with a automotive carnauba wax on top of that. So pretty much just take this whole area and put a coat of the automotive cleaner wax on it, and it will look. These springs involve simply sliding them back into place. You want to make sure the little tab on the spring engages the plastic housing. So what you're going to do is just kind of push them on there and you'll feel them snap. Then give them a little squeeze to make sure they latch, and you'll feel it when it hits. Slide it on, give it a little squeeze. And repeat and repeat and repeat. Okay, after the springs are in place, you want to make sure that these little tabs engage the little holes. That's going to orient the position. Can't really go anywhere. Next thing you want to do is replace the screws, hold it. Pretty much it. Now when you tighten these screws down, you just want to make sure that you don't overdo it, but you definitely want to have it snug. So I just use a couple of fingers on the screwdriver to make sure I don't crank down on that too hard, because you don't want to deform the plastic. Make sure it's snug. What you're going to want to do now is pull up your drawbar contacts. Some of these things I've seen are pretty well caked with grease. You want to go ahead and clean the grease off first using your contact cleaner. Then take your trusty pink pearl eraser, hold this down on the surface pretty flat, just give it a couple of good little rubs and you will see them turn bright and shiny. These were not too bad. Never, 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 ever use any sort of sandpaper. Even the finest sandpaper you can get, 500-600 grit, is too coarse for this kind of work. Don't use sandpaper, don't use steel wool, don't use anything like that. This is more than abrasive enough to take care of that little bit of oxidation that's on there. I can't stress that enough. So what you're going to do is just kind of go down the line, take a look at how bad they are as far as grease, and just kind of polish off any small amount of oxidation and the dark spots that may be on there, and you'll see that they come up nice and shiny bright. After all of those are polished up nice, you're going to want to go back and give them all another little shot of the contact cleaner. This will knock loose any residue that might have broken loose from the erasers. So just pretty gently wipe them off and get rid of the, like I said, any remaining residue.